So you have left religion, but fear is still running your life. Why is that? In today's video, we're going to talk about how it is time for you to burn the lies that fear is showing you and become unstoppable. I am Tamara Temu. If you are new here, welcome. For those of you that have been here from the beginning, I appreciate you for your continual support. Also, this is one thing that I always forget to say in these episodes. I want to know your feedback. Let me know what your biggest challenge is as you embrace your sovereignty from your religious experience. Okay, let me know what your challenge is. Let me know in the comments. Also, if you are listening to this over on the Unleashed Alchemy podcast, follow, share this episode, share this entire podcast with other Black women that you know that are trying to navigate their lives after leaving religion. All right, so let's jump into today's episode. So this fear, all right, this fear that you have, fear of the unknown, fear of embracing spiritual practices that belong to you, fear of embracing those ancient spiritual practices that run through your veins. You have to understand that that fear does not belong to you. It is not yours. It is fear that you adopted. It is fear that you were given. It's fear that was handed to you. All right. So I'm already ahead of myself. So let me reel it back in. Let me share with you my part of my story. Okay. So when I left religion it'll be almost 25 years at this point now. Okay. When I left, I felt a sense of relief. Okay. I felt like I was able to breathe again. I felt like I was gaining just life back and being able to exist and experience the world. I felt like I was getting my energy back. Okay. There were no more Bible classes. There were no more saints meetings. There were no more church conferences. There were no more practices for the praise team. There were no more times of sitting in church wishing I was somewhere else. There were no more 2 church services on Sunday. Okay. There were no more church services on Sunday. All right. Even though I still had that glimpse of freedom or that feeling of slight freedom, there was still something holding me back. And it was fear that was still holding me back. Okay. I felt stagnant because the same questions that I had all of those years when I was sitting in church, the questions that I had about this idea of a God, I was questioning that again. I was questioning this idea of a devil, okay? Questioning this idea of angels, questioning everything that I had been taught, questioning why I was told to stay away from certain practices. All of those questions were still there. Those questions didn't go away. However, fear was still operating in my life because I pretended like those questions were not there. I was still afraid to explore what was on the other side of those questions. Okay? Not just those questions, but even more questions were coming up since I had been away from religion. Okay. Because of fear. All right. This is what I want to say to you. Because of fear, I wouldn't allow myself, like I said, to explore what was on the other side of those questions, okay? Because intuitively, I already knew, my soul knew, but my mind couldn't wrap itself around that because what was on the other side of those questions was unknown, all right? Now, it wasn't until I got tired of being pushed around by my own fear. I got tired of feeling stagnant. It wasn't until I said, you know what, let me stop and see, instead of me resisting all of this, what is the fear showing me? What is the fear telling me? And I'm going to read to you a few of the things that the fear was telling me. Fear was saying, you don't know anything outside of religion, so you should just go back to church. You don't know anything outside of the Bible, so just keep reading the Bible. Don't read any other books. Don't read any other books. If I had listened to that fear, I would not have been led to this book, okay? The Mami Wata, Africa's Ancient Goddesses Unveiled. Goddesses and Gods Unveiled, all right? Also, another thing that fear was showing me was people are going to look at you, they're going to judge you, they're going to call you demonic, they're going to look at you crazy. They're going to say that you are lost. You know, that church word, anytime someone would leave the church in the past, all the religious people would say, oh, that person is just lost. Another thing that fear was showing me was, hey, you know what they told you? You know what they told you in religion? You know what they told you in the church? All of that stuff, that quote, witchcraft, anything that's not religion is not of God. If it's not in the Bible, it's not of God, which I learned was interesting to me because everything that I was told to stay away from is actually right in the Bible. That's another episode for another day. But those ancient practices are evil, so you can't stay away from that stuff. Those are just a few of the things that fear was showing me. And I had to just face it head on. And it wasn't until I looked at what fear was showing me that I realized that that fear was not mine. I was not born with that fear. It didn't belong to me. I adopted it. It was fear that was handed to me out of control. The people that handed it to me, that fear was handed to them out of control. So they only gave me what they knew. You see? So, as you can see from my story, even though I had left church, I had left religion, the fear was still operating in my life because that religious programming was still operating in my life. And so I'm going to give you these tips because if you're still watching at the 9-minute mark, 9 times out of 10, you can relate to this. You are experiencing this right now. So how do you handle the fear that is still trying to control you, even though you are not part of the religious construct anymore? What do you do to untangle the religious programming of fear out of your nervous system and out of your life? So, look at the unknown. Examine the unknown. Acknowledge the unknown. Celebrate the unknown. Acknowledge that life without religion is different. It feels different. It is an unknown experience, but it is a new experience. Not but, it is an unknown experience and a new experience. It's new to your brain, it's new to your mind, but it is not new to your soul. So that's the first thing that you need to do is just look at the unknown and acknowledge my life on the other side of religion, beyond religion, feels different. It could even look different. It is different. It is a new experience. It is an unknown experience. And let that be what it is. So that's the first step, right? Also, one of the other fears that I mentioned to you was the fear of judgment from other people. Now, that within itself, we already know that that is a huge religious idea, okay? If people judge you, what do you think is going to happen? Do you feel like you're going to die? Okay. Is something bad going to happen to you if people judge you? Are you going to burst into flames? Pay attention to the thoughts that are coming up after judgment. Okay, so if fear is showing you where people are going to judge you, okay, so if people judge me, what is fear showing me is going to happen? Are you feeling or fearing judgment, so-called judgment that hasn't happened yet, or perhaps it has? Perhaps the fear is not in the judgment. Perhaps the fear is in the loss of those relationships that you have with those people. Look at that. Are you afraid of losing relationships with other people? Do you think that you, having left religion, that is going to sever ties with certain people, that it is going to end relationships? That is a possibility. Explore the possibility. Explore that. Don't ignore it. For example, you can say, well, because of judgment, it's going to lead to a crack in this specific relationship. And then if we don't recover from this crack in the relationship, then what's going to happen? What's on the other side of the end of that relationship? Here is another unknown, right? And we already know that the unknown is simply a new experience. It is not good. It is not bad. It is an unknown, new way of existing. So going back to the relationship example, if that relationship ends, don't look at it as a loss, because whatever experiences that you had with that person, whether it was a friendship, whether it was a significant other relationship, if it was a marriage, if it was a business, I'm talking about relationships on all levels. Okay, if it ends, now you're free from that, and now something new, something elevated can come in. Because I'm going to say this, and this can be a hard pill to swallow. If you are like me and you grew up in religion, most Black people, I'm going to say yes, most Black people, most Black women, because that's what my content is specifically for, Black women. Most Black women grew up in a religion. You grew up in some sort of religious household that was attached to an organized religion. And you may find that a lot of your relationships that have lasted, it's not that the two of you like each other. It's not that the two of you or your group of friends or family or whatever, it's not that you all like each other's company. Many times you stay in a community or in a relationship because of the religion. And I'm not saying that is the case for all of your relationships, but in some cases, the reason why relationships have stayed, have lasted, is because it is the religious glue that has kept the relationship together. Hard pill to swallow, I know, but it's fine because we're here to face, not resist, but to face what could be. All right. So, the other tip that I have for you, being afraid of exploring your ancient spiritual practices from your ancient Black mothers as the original woman, before there was a Bible, before there was the construct of religion that we see. There were spiritual practices. There were the Sybil prophetesses. There was and still is the Mami Wata pantheon. Before all of this that we see now, there was the original, the ancient spiritual practices that you have in your veins, that you have in your blood. Okay? Returning to that ancient wisdom, like I said, of our ancient Black mothers, whose connection with the cosmos above and below, it was like no other. All right? The most original and sacred, before there was a religion, before there was a Bible, there were the Sibyls. The ancient wisdom yields a spiritual technology that is elevated. First of all, let me back up. The spiritual technology, again, that is in your body already, that is elevated beyond religion, beyond colonization. The fear of that spiritual authority came from religion as part of the plan to keep you bound and to keep you disconnected from your true identity. So, what is the fear showing you about those ancient spiritual practices? Is it showing you that those ancient spiritual practices are evil? Well, who said? Who said it was evil? And you may be saying, well, I don't know anything about it. Okay. That is a reality. Well, what could you do to know more about it? Could you read up on it? Could you ask someone that you trust? Could you get more information? Because I'm going to tell you and I'm just going to say this as a caveat. The more you know about something, the less fear you have of it. The more you know about something, the less fear you have that surrounds what you now know more about. Okay? So, 3 things I'm going to go over one more time. How do you deal with the fear? How do you put the fear in its place? Number 1, you look at the unknown. You acknowledge that your life after religion is new. It is unknown. It is a different experience. Number 2, if people judge you, what is the fear telling you is going to happen to you? Number 3, what is the fear showing you about those ancient spiritual practices? What is the fear showing you about your spiritual technology? And why is that fear coming at you so hard? So this is about exploration, not ignoring the fear, not pretending that it's not there, but facing it head on, because that's what you do, Black woman, as a sovereign being. You face it head on. You face it head on. So, what I want to tell you before we go to help you to move into your spiritual sovereignty after religion, I created a mini series for you. It's a mini video 5-part series. It's complimentary. Go to my website, unleashedalchemy.com, put in your email, and you will receive the 5 parts of this video series. I called it Religion to Alchemy. And look at this video series as a guide to help you embrace and move into your spiritual sovereignty after religion without fear, telling fear where to go. All right? You've already experienced that. You've already got to the point where you've liberated yourself to some degree by leaving religion, but now you deserve complete freedom, ultimate liberation in your spiritual expression in every single part of your life. All right. So download the mini series, unleashedalchemy.com. Let me know what your takeaways are from this episode. Let me know what your biggest challenge has been, or challenges have been, in navigating life after religion. All right. And I will do my best. If you have questions, I will do my best to get to as many questions as I can. I'm thinking of doing just going live on YouTube to dedicate that time to answer questions. But I want to get a group of questions in hand before I do that. Okay. So, so that's the end of today's episode. And until next time, be sovereign.